if you work as an employee, then you can probably neither grow or not be able to be justify your position as well.
Welcome to another episode of Engineering Aajkal. Have you ever wondered what is the right time for software engineer to be a software engineer? According to our guest, there is no fixed time for anything. He is none other than Karthik Arora. He started his entrepreneurship journey at the age of 17 and founded Bizarre Creations. So, Karthik, why engineering?
I think it's a question that we should ask more than 10 lakh engineers every year. I don't really had much of a choice. Either it was to become a sportsman or to become an engineer. I chose the latter. That's the only way to kind of go ahead and get a degree which is worthwhile showing off in the end.
You were CEO at Get Balance, even founded Bizarre Creation at the age of 17. Can you tell us about these two things that you started?
Bizarre was actually started while I was in the midst of moving from done with your schooling, and then you were just waiting to get into a college. I think that's when I started off looking for some opportunities and doing some sort of a work, because that's when it all started for me. After being like a part of Encrypt, it kind of just rolled on to doing always something in the world of computer sciences. I started off building a product which was primarily for tuition centers and helps the students discuss solutions online on a forum, do class assignments, all of these things. We did it pretty good with quite a few number of tuition centers in Gurgaon back then, and similarly, and I think that's when I spotted the opportunity, because we all been going to tuitions since our I think a lot of people since 7th grade, 8th grade, and I've done like tuitions 2 years from 10th to 12th grade. And similarly, in case of Get Balance, Shivnada University being, we were one of the first batch at the university, and we saw huge potential that and back then in 2011 2010 online recharges wasn't a big thing. I never thought of doing it, honestly. It just it's not something that I obviously planned for. It's just kept happening as and when I saw some sort of an opportunity of doing something. And I think entrepreneurship is all about solving a problem and then scaling that solution to a bigger and wider audience. And I think for me, the primary key learning has been that I think it's always better to do things, fail, and then do it again, and then probably fail. And one of the days you will probably succeed.
You started working at Greyloft, which is a technology-enabled real estate startup kind of a thing, which is based in Singapore. Tell us more about the startup and what did you do there?
I joined Greyloft at a very, very early age, in a sense that they had just kind of graduated from an accelerator program called JFTI in Singapore. I was initially just being a part of the startup, helping the co-founders, who were also my friends, kind of build the product, and then scale the product as well. Do a lot of MVP tests around customers and everything. That's what I was responsible in the beginning. And so as Greyloft, what we wanted to be was we wanted to be like a real estate agency, like a typical real estate broking agency, but a lot more technology enabled and very the entire process. We wanted to make the entire process more efficient. So if you see a lot of these real estate process of buying or renting a house is still very much broken, and it's still very hectic, very cumbersome process. So we wanted to make this entire transaction process a lot more easier, a lot more smoother for people who are doing it.
So there you work for like as a senior engineer for 5 months and then you were a tech lead. So was this process a little intimidating for you?
I wouldn't say intimidating in that process, but I would say definitely say intimidating in terms of the responsibilities that you're handling. Because if you see, I was still, I'd say like 22, I guess. I mean, I was still 22, and there was a huge team that I was handling. Most of the folks were elder to me. Our average age was around almost 26 back then, and I was just 20 to 23. It was intimidating hiring all of these people, convincing them to kind of join and start working with us. So I think that was a very challenging process, but also fun swift process.
Can you tell us about the skills required to grow in a company in such a small time?
Mostly it's just the attitude and the kind of character you carry in the organization. I think both these things are extremely important. And skills, I think it's not important to be uh, a super coder or anything like that. You just need to have a right attitude and you will eventually grow. If you work as an employee, then you can probably neither grow or not be able to be justify your position as well. So at any early age startup, you are an entrepreneur. So you have to look at everything from all different angles. You have to wear multiple hats of being an engineer, of being a product guy, of being a business guy. And that's how you have to work.
After Greyloft, you started working at Milk Basket. Here too, you started as a senior engineer and ended up being an engineering manager. Can you tell us about this journey from one to another? And what are the key learnings that you had?
My journey at Greyloft was very, very different comparatively to my journey at Milk Basket. Because at Greyloft, we were more focused towards building building a product, and we weren't successful in scaling that particular product. And We lived for a very short time. So I'd say we lived for almost 3 years in this space, and eventually we got acquired by another organization. Even when I started off as one of the early engineers, there were just three of us in the beginning. And the entire organization strength was, I think, about 12 to 15 people. And over a span of 3 years, we grew from 15 people to almost 200 plus people in the organization. As I mentioned earlier as well, that as the startup grows, you can ride that particular growth wave as well, and you will always grow in that particular in your career if you show the right attitude. So, and I think that's what I kept carrying. You have to have a very high energy. You have to participate in everything that you see. You have to come up with the right solutions. Actually, not the right solution, but you have to come with some solutions. You have to be very involved in what you're doing. You have to really be up and keep yourself up and running. There will be a lot of times when things will not go your way at all, but I think you have to be very inclined and very much into the game. And that's how I grew from being a senior engineer. So initially I was just working as a senior engineer. We were building the product that was needed by the consumers, and as we scaled, we hired more people. We grew from an engineering team of just 3 people to almost a team of 50 people. For example, with the number of orders that we were doing back then was just 30,000 orders a month, and then we grew to doing 30,000 to 3.5 million orders a month. So the kind of scale we grew, obviously we needed more people to come in. We needed the existing people to show to grow up in their career ladder. And obviously, if you are in the organization from the initial time, you will automatically get the options to grow.
In both the companies, you were talking with a lot of business teams, product. You were also a product guy. You're talking to investors, C-level stakeholders. Engineering colleges do not teach you these kind of people skills, how to talk to people and where to talk. So how did you learn these things?
Yes, that's true. Being at engineering, you don't learn all of these things. Although subconsciously, when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your professors, you are having some sort of communication with a lot of people. A lot of people are naturally good at communications, and a lot of people kind of pick up as you do. You fail, you keep learning, you figure out you were screwed up once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, and then you keep improving and getting better. And that's when the startup I did at the Bizarre Creations thing, it kind of helped me, because a lot of the times I was interacting with a lot of people who were not from my background, or people who were not from my age. So because while you're doing engineering, you're just primarily interacting with students who are kind of your age, have similar thought process. And I think that's where my startup actually helped me to kind of learn a lot in terms of how to establish that communication with people who have been into the industries, people who are much older to you.
So you're currently working in Skyscanner. It's world's go-to platform for traveling. And you got a job there, that also based in Singapore. How did you manage to get a job in such an aspirational company, and that too in an international location?
The good part is nowadays all the organizations, be it Skyscanner or I mean the bunch of companies a bunch of startups, I'd say, like who are looking out for great talent. And they don't really care about where you come from, which part of the world you come from. I think how I got it was pretty simple. One of the recruiters contacted you, just go through the process, and almost every engineering company uh, does have some sort of a process for about at least with 6 to 7 interviews. I think no matter where you apply, especially at the bigger organizations like Skyscanner, let's say Spotify, all of these startups, you will have a longer process.
What's a usual day in life of a software engineer at Skyscanner?
Actually, it's very interesting because I feel as an engineer, you just don't solve engineering problems, but you're also solving product problems. The team that I work in is extremely small because we just started off the team. So here we are actually directly having communications with the product managers, the different business stakeholders which are outside of our organization. So you're actually communicating with them to understand what are their particular point of views on the product, what is that they are looking to solve, what are their pain points, and how can you help them actually solve those problems. And we follow extreme agile methodology, which means that in software engineering you have like daily stand-ups, you do weekly sprint plannings, you're looking at retrospectives, that you're looking at things that you kind of missed out in the last sprint. So all of these things that we typically follow. And the other things is that you get a chance to work with all folks at Skyscanner. So no matter, you can actually go ahead and participate beyond your team work. There are a lot of teams who are working on different kind of projects, and you feel free to, you can actually you are always feel free to kind of go ahead and help them out. So because it's a very cool engineering process that I've set up.
So, how has your work and work culture changed with each of these companies?
Okay.
And because we're part of different industries.
I decided this in the beginning itself, that I want to be like a jack of all trades, which means that I want to focus more on breadth and rather than on depth. That's why I chose to skip from one industry to the other. So because it helps me to understand how that particular industry work. I might not want to master that particular industry, but I really want to understand what sort of challenges do consumers face, and how you can actually help them to solve their problems. So that's why I kept skipping from one particular industry to the other, and somehow I just landed up in the travel industry at the worst time, I'd say. So I think this is something interesting and challenging. I think culture is something that's very core to every organization, and for me, culture has changed from organization to organization. I haven't seen any two organizations which have even the slightest of the similar culture, starting from Greyloft to Milkbasket to Skyscanner. So because of how the kind of stages that all of these organizations have been, you just went through in the beginning itself. So you are much sorted for the next, at least for a decade. So you will not be facing this in the middle. So for you, it's actually a good time, because just when this ends, there will be a massive growth, which means that you will be part of that growth. So for you, I think it's a good time to be. And if you don't find a job, it's okay. You can spend some more time finding one. It's just gonna take a lot more than it'll take a lot more time than it is usually supposed to. But I don't think you should take it too seriously, because the ones who already you've seen, the ones who already have jobs right now are the ones who are also struggling. So people with 15 years of experience, 20 years of experience are also struggling to keep their jobs right now. So I think it's not just you part of the storm, everyone else. So it's just tough times. The ones who are graduating are still far better off the ones who are already there in the industry, because for you guys, you still have a open slate, and you can pick and choose wherever you want. And given that companies have a lot of lower budget, so they will be preferring more people with who are graduating now. People who are graduating now, compared to the ones who are with higher salaries and a lot more expectations and everything.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for being part of this interview. I'm sure this has helped a lot of engineers who are watching this right now. Thank you so much.